Want to welcome everybody to this month's Amicable Hour, which is an event that's hosted for the public by the Amicable Divorce Network. Our goal is to train amicable-minded professionals so that they have the best information and contacts in the industry to help the public with amicable divorces. We also have the goal of letting the public know and educating them that amicable divorce is possible. It's a wonderful option for you, and we hope that you will explore that as an option if you are looking at divorce. Amicable Academy is offered once a month, and it is a public education opportunity that we offer where we feature our professional members on a particular area. This content will also be posted on our YouTube channel. So if you missed something important and you want to catch up on it, you can always check out our YouTube channel. Just look for Amicable Divorce Network and you will see the information presented there. You can also get more information about our professionals, about joining the organization, or finding an amicable divorce professional at our website, which is amicableddivorcenetwork.com. If you have questions throughout today's presentation, please just put them in the chat feature. That's at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be monitoring those questions. And at the end of each presenter, we will let them know if they've had questions that they can answer for you before we move on to our next presentation. So today our event is hosted by Lisa Decker. Lisa is the financial chair for the Amicable Divorce Network. She is also a certified divorce financial analyst and the owner of and manager, I guess, of or mayor of Divorce Town USA, who has joint membership opportunities with the Amicable Divorce Network. We often say we're the Amicable Avenue of Divorce Town. And so I want to thank her very much for organizing this topic today for everybody. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lisa Decker, and I'm sorry to be in the dark here. I'm having a bit of technical issues this morning, but I'm going to work on that while we have our first presenter. And I'm really excited to bring you this topic today because this is really one of the basics, the three-legged stool of divorce, and especially amicable divorce. We have the legal, the emotional, and the financial that bring together the best divorce for folks that are going through this. And so right now it is my extreme pleasure to introduce Dan Branch. He is a partner with IAG Forensics and Valuation with over 18 years experience, and he specializes in and has provided testimony for all aspects of forensic accounting for family law matters, including business valuations. Now, prior to his work with forensic accounting, which he calls AKA sexy accounting, Dan was an officer in the U.S. Navy and served aboard the guided missile cruiser USS Bella Gulf and nuclear aircraft carrier USS Enterprise. And yes, the Navy's first nuclear aircraft carrier, and no, he does not glow in the dark, usually. So Dan, that's a great intro there. And he is going to be talking about the financial basics of amicable divorce. And I am going to let Dan take it from here. So thank you, Dan. Tracy, well, before we pass it off here, are we going to just give Dan the big screen, or you've got to manage that on your end there so that everybody can?
Yeah, he should have screen sharing ability, Dan. If you just want to double check with that, you should have that available to you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll start that up in just a minute. I just want to say hi before the PowerPoint just kind of comes up. But hello to everybody. I'm happy to be here. Glad to talk with y'all about some financial issues for amicable divorces, which really, you know, we can assist with really any of the kind of financial issues in any divorce. But in an amicable divorce, you know, there are some things that I think we can help with in that, helping educate and help people understand the financial aspects, and really kind of keeping some of what may be animosity that may kind of grow from either uncertainty or fear or just not understanding. Hopefully we can help alleviate some of that, so that if the parties want to go the amicable route, we can help with that. You know, we're not looking to make people mad, or we're just looking to help people on the financial side. So there's a lot of things that we can do, and really in any divorce, we're going to try to assist in that same way. But on the amicable side, we do try to help, foster that amicable kind of nature between the parties. If they really want to go that route, we're happy to help that. And I'll talk a little more about it as we go. And I don't know if there's any kind of chat feature or anything, but if anybody has questions as we're going through, and if I don't catch it, I get a little distracted with when I'm presenting, but if anything comes up later, we can certainly try to, address those. So I'm just going to throw up some slides that I put together, to talk a little more about, what we can do and what we can assist with. Let's see, and that should be, and can y'all let me know if you can see the PowerPoint slide?
You can see it, Dan.
Okay, good, because I thought it was maybe just the background of my screen, but if you can see it, that's great. And so what I want to talk about is how can we help you? And there are certainly many ways we can help you. And some of the things I'm going to be talking about are pretty broad. We can help you with this, we can help you with this, we can help you with that. So we can help with kind of everything on the financial side, but it may just be that, you guys have worked out everything, the parties have worked out everything except for one little piece. And, and that's how much is marital portion of the marital house, or how much of a retirement account, somebody came into the marriage with, and what should be considered marital from that. So we can, kind of help on the whole spectrum if you need that, but we can also just kind of help piecemeal if that's needed. And I already talked a little bit about myself, but I am a CPA. I've got certifications for business valuation, and have been doing this for over 15 years, and really been specializing a lot in family law in the last few years, partly because I've been through a divorce myself. I know that there are issues that can be very hurtful to both parties on their financial side. And a lot of that stems from fear and uncertainty. And so I certainly try to appreciate or come at each project and each client's issues with that kind of mindset, understanding those kind of issues. What are the things that a forensic accountant can do to help? Well, there really are a lot of ways. And one of those is just to assist with identifying what is the information that you need to be able to look at the financial picture. A second way is to be able to look at, what are the assets that are available for division? What needs to be included in that? What's not going to be included in that? Another facet that we can help with is determining income, because that may be needed for either child support or maybe even potentially alimony issues. And then another thing, especially in the amicable divorce realm, is being able to assist as a financial educator. So helping both sides understand what the financial issues are, and really helping everyone get to an understanding, which can help reduce some of the stress and or other issues that come with that. So if you're a client, if you're looking or going through a divorce yourself and looking for assistance, well, you may not really even understand what the financial picture is. You may not even know where to start. And that's certainly something we can help with. Part of that is going to be on identifying the information. What do we need? What is your financial picture, and how do we build that out? So initially, we can help figure out, okay, what's the basic information? What are all your accounts? What are, do you have life insurance policies? How many residences do you have? What vehicles do you have? All those types of things to help build out what the financial picture is. And then we can help with obtaining information. We'll identify the information that's needed. And we can do that for really, both parties, depending on if we're working as a financial neutral, and I'll talk about that a little later, or if we're working for just one side, we can help figure out, okay, what does our client need? But then what does the other party also need to deliver, so we can figure out what the total financial picture is. And then the last part is, we analyze. We do what we do best as accountants. We put together some spreadsheets, we look at the numbers and come up with, a way to solve whatever issue we're working on. And so the first part, when we say the financial picture, a lot of people think of assets. What are the assets in the marital estate, as we call it? What does the couple have? And so certainly there's the assets, but then there's also potentially any liabilities that need to be addressed and considered. And so a marital balance sheet is the way to do that. And we put together all the assets, which can be, some of the ones that are shown here. So there's liquid assets, cash, investments, investment properties, vehicles, but then you're also going to have non-liquid assets, as we call them. So something that may not be readily liquefied into cash. And those can be business interests that are owned by the parties. And that's something that David Hern is going to be talking about a little later about doing business valuations. And really what you're doing in a business valuation is to figure out what that asset is to put on the marital balance sheet. But there could be other things. People who have artwork, they could have, prize-worthy show stallions that, are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. There could also be equity compensation. So one of the parties could get phantom stock, or they could have stock options, or performance stock, things of that from their job. And those can be kind of tricky and confusing to figure out. So those are all kind of the assets. And so when you're looking at the total assets, we do also consider the liabilities. So, if there's a mortgage on any of the properties, if you have any other kind of debts, tax liabilities, things of that nature, we take all of those into account to figure out what the marital balance sheet is. And then once we know that, then we can start looking at, well, how should that be divided? And things, some people sometimes say, but, wait, Aunt Susan gave me $100,000, when she died. What about that? How do we treat that? And so that's something where we start looking then at any of the specific assets. We can see if, are they marital? Is there what we call separate component? Separate meaning it should not be considered part of the marital estate and therefore should not be open for division. And so, a client may have a lot of questions about that. Is that something I can keep? Is it maritable? Is it something that needs to be shared or what? And so that's something we can help with. And it's really going to depend on, one, the type of asset. Is it a financial asset? Did you maybe inherit some real estate? And there's a lot of factors that we look at, but what we'll do is what we call a tracing analysis. So we'll look to see, when did you get the asset? When did it come in? What have you done with it since you received it? How should it be treated and how should it be treated? There's certainly some legal arguments there. And we're not the attorneys, we're just the financial people on here. So, we'll have some insight as to how it could be treated, but ultimately there may be some legal arguments related to it. But we can help figure out, okay, if we look at it one way, the separate tracing results in, maybe it's all separate, or maybe a portion of it is going to be marital, but we can help figure that out. And I did not put here an example of the tracing we do, just because people may not love spreadsheets as much as we do. But we can do certainly pretty complex analyses to figure out over time how the money moved and how it was treated and how it could be looked at today. And so some of the other things we talked about were some of the non-liquid assets were the equity compensation. And so, someone may be working at a company where they get stock options, they may get restricted stock. This may be something you're not even familiar with. I've certainly had clients where they come in and they say, well, I don't even know what this is. And, it's a stock option. It's not really anything. So I guess that's, not open for, it's like outside the pool, nothing to consider. And I say, well, we have to figure that out. And so we can do an analysis, which really looks to say, okay, when were they received? When did they vest? There's a lot of different milestones and things we look at, so we can ultimately figure out, okay, of these non-liquid equity compensation, some portion of it may be equity or maybe marital, some portion may be separate, and we can figure that out. So that's looking at the marital balance sheet and the assets and what there is to divide. But something else that we can assist with is, okay, well, what about income? And so income can certainly be one person may say, yeah, but I'm only making $12,000 a year. And the other party may say, well, gosh, we have 3 kids in private school and we take these really big trips every year. That doesn't seem like a lot. So we can look and say, well, what is reasonable income? And especially if the parties own a business or one of the parties in the couple own a business, does their salary reflect their actual income? And that's something David may also be talking about, that because we do consider those things when doing a business valuation as well. But when we're looking at income, there may be aspects of expenses that are run through the business that really could be considered more income than a business expense. And he may talk a little more about that for the business valuation. But when we're trying to look at income, ultimately, we're trying to say, well, what should we expect going forward? And certainly historical salary or income information may be very relevant and may be the best thing to rely upon, but we need to consider any kind of future impacts that could be possible. Certainly in the last year, in 2020, there were a lot of issues with income. Someone may have been making six figures in 2019, and in 2020 their business may have cratered, and certainly that should be considered. And how do you capture that? How do you reflect that? How do you figure out what to expect going forward? So when we're looking at income, there's a lot of things that we can look at, and so we'll try to pull together information from various sources. So again, we're going to be looking historically for documentation, and so looking at tax returns. What was somebody paid through their business or their company? Do they have W-2s? What did it say on their pay stubs? And all of those documents have relevant information that could be helpful. For instance, if they get an HSA that is paid for, or if they have some equity compensation that we don't really see it anywhere else, but then we see on a pay stub that they get some equity compensation. So those are all helpful things to look at. And certainly if it's a private company, we may also want to look at the private company financials. As I said, sometimes, privately held business owners may try to lessen, have some tax strategies. And so they may have some personal expenses that go through the business. And again, we're not looking necessarily to, flag them for an IRS audit or anything like that, but certainly we want to consider that and see if should those personal expenses being put through the business, should those be considered income and considered in an income analysis? Also, is there any kind of rental or partnership income? And that could certainly be the case if someone has a privately held business, and it may just be they own 15 rental properties that are in a real estate holding company. So maybe that's where they get some of the rental income or partnership income. Certain all things that we want to look at when we're considering income. Another case, or another way we can look at it is, we can see what people have coming in from their jobs, from their W-2s, or also what a salary they're paying from a business that they may own. Well, like I said, sometimes privately held businesses, the owner can pay themselves, sometimes kind of whatever they want, but does their lifestyle reflect that? So if they are, like I said, putting three students or three kids rather in private schools, they have pretty lavish trips every year, they have 2 homes, and yet they're reporting that they only make about $12,000 a year. There seems like a bit of mismatch there. Certainly they may have some assets they're living off of. We would just need to determine that. And so we do sometimes what's called an analysis of spending, or a spending analysis, to say, okay, this is what's been spent in the past, and based on what has been spent, we can impute what their income is. And so that's something that we've typically done in the past to help with determining income. Again, we may not have to do that. We may be able to determine just by looking at, the tax returns and the W-2s and things like that. But there are other things that we can help with. And so those are some of the kind of specific analyses that we can help with. Again, that's looking at the marital balance sheet, figuring out what assets and what the marital pot is that's available for division. We can also help with income to figure out what the income is, and that could be for alimony purposes, that could be for child support purposes. But then, in the amicable divorce realm, the things that I like to think of is largely what we do is educate our clients. And so people may come in, they haven't been involved with the personal financials for the couple, over 20 years. They have really no idea. All they've ever known was, hey, I just, go to the store and, the credit card gets paid off every month and they have no idea, how much the couple makes or even what assets they have. And so sometimes it's just educating them on, okay, here's what you have, here's what there is, here's what is, the income that's made, and here are ways that you could look at dividing it. So it's really just kind of educating the parties, which can, reduce a lot of stress, reduce a lot of anxiety once the financial picture is known or at least comes a lot clearer. Another thing we do is act as a financial neutral. And a financial neutral is really just doing what we normally do, but instead of working for one party, we'll be working for both of the parties. And it's something that can save time, can save money. If both parties are going to get a financial expert or someone to assist them, then they're both spending on doing that. There's some duplication of effort. So as a financial neutral, you're working for both of the parties, sharing all the information with both of the parties, and really working on a reasonable conclusion to figure out what is the financial picture for the parties. And again, that's working for both of the parties, and we call that a financial neutral. And sometimes we're even appointed by the court as a financial neutral. So it's something that the courts have, see us as being able to provide, but it's also something that we've helped a lot of clients and a lot of attorneys also talk through. Some things that, sometimes if people are arguing and they're fighting, and again, if there's not a lot of trust, or maybe there's a lot of confusion or uncertainty about the financial aspects, the discovery process, which is where you're asking for information, getting information, figuring out all the relevant information you need to be able to build that financial picture. Well, sometimes that can be an acrimonious situation. And obviously in the amicable divorce realm, the parties are trying to avoid that. And so by us assisting and saying, okay, this is what we need, this is why we need it, but this is the universe of what we need to help build that financial picture, it can really just reduce, again, some of the stress, the acrimony, and just have everybody working towards the same goal, which is, figuring out what's the financial picture so the parties can reach a settlement or move forward with their lives. One of the things that I think is maybe best about what we can do in the amicable side is really we're looking to help keep family relationships healthy. By reducing or minimizing the acrimony, reducing the uncertainty, reducing the stress, reducing the anxiety, just by helping the parties understand the financial topics, I think is one way that we can really help on the amicable divorce side.
Hey, Dan,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I need to give you the 1 minute warning here.
Okay, I figured that was why you were jumping on. So look at that, I reached my
Awesome, perfect timing.
Yeah, so but again, Lisa will probably talk through this. I'm sure David will kind of mention it. What we're here for is to help the parties figure out what the financial picture is, and that could be marital balance sheet, valuing a business, looking at pensions, looking at equity compensation, all those things, and even tax impacts and things to consider on the tax side, all those things to help the parties really come together and figure out how they can reach a settlement or an agreement in an amicable fashion. So, I tend not to be a yeller. I mean, I was in the Navy, so I can yell if needed, but, I tend to work better is with a little bit of humor and maybe a little sugar than yelling. So all about the amicable, but happy to be here. And if there are any questions, I don't know if Lisa, if any come through, or maybe we'll save them to the end, or if you have any kind of questions to kind of go over as a panel. But thank you.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you so much. And you're very comprehensive there. And all of the things that Dan talked about are vitally important in the divorce process, and especially in the amicable divorce process. We want to keep things as civilized and peaceful as possible between clients. So great job, Dan. Okay, next up, I'm going to switch hats here as a presenter. And let me bring up my slides for you here. Bear with me 1 second while I share screen. And I hope I've got this right now. Okay, So everyone see my screen okay? Give me a
You see
shout
it,
out.
Lisa.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I am a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. And as we know, the marital home is one of the largest assets that people divide in a divorce. So today I'm going to be talking about the top 5 divorce and real estate dangers you need to know to avoid making common, costly, and permanent mistakes. So let's get to it. Here we go. Okay, let's do it. It's not cooperating so well with me here. All right. So, we think of the equity as the fair market value minus the mortgage balance, but there may be other things involved that are underlying. Where does that really, the value, first of all, where does that really come from? A lot of people will look on Zillow or Redfin or Realtor.com and assume that that's the value of their property, but the market is changing all the time and rapidly, as we know now. We've been in a long, very fast run up in real estate. Now we're starting to show signs of things slowing down and coming back down. So it's important that you work with a professional, either a realtor, a broker who can give you a broker's price opinion. A realtor can give you a comparative market analysis, or an appraiser who can give you a fair market value from the appraisal standards. But you need to have someone who's really in touch with the market as it is today to give you the best idea of what the value is. And also knowing that appraisals will disclaim title and inspection. So they do not do title searches, so they won't know if there are any liens against the title. They do not do inspections to see if there are any problem areas. And so you want to engage those professionals that can help with that as well, such as inspectors. And you want to make sure that you are divorcing your spouse and your house. And that's important because creditors are not bound by the terms of your settlement agreement. So a lot of people think, well, my spouse was ordered to pay the mortgage, and so I don't have to worry about that. But if both of your names are on the title and you have not been removed, if both of your names are on the mortgage, and you have not been removed from the liability of that mortgage, you still owe. And so you want to make sure that you don't sign a quitclaim deed before your spouse has refinanced the house. And that's really important because you end up owing but not owning anymore. So there's a timing to all of this, and all of these things need to be determined ahead of time. So if one spouse wants to keep the house, we want to determine early on, like very soon into the process, can they qualify to refinance? Many times over the years, I've been doing this, 13 years at this, I have seen people come to me after their divorce is over and say, I was ordered to do a refi in 18 months. And now I realize I can't qualify because they're, first of all, they weren't pre-qualified to see whether they could qualify to do a refi or not. And secondly, their terms weren't written up in such a way that the mortgage company could use that. Generally, a mortgage company is going to need at least 3 years, if not 4. I like to use 4 years of alimony or child support to use that support as an income provider for that mortgage. We also want to make sure, for clients' purposes and their best interest, can they afford the house? A lot of times people want the house for emotional reasons or for, digging their heels in. They want it because their other spouse wants it, whatever the case may be. We want to make sure that they can afford it for the long haul. This is one of the hardest topics of conversation with clients is, really it's not in your best interest to keep the house because you may be house equity rich, but cash flow poor. And, you have to maintain a home and all the other things that go along with it. So determine these factors early and then spell out very specific terms for doing so. what is the time frame to do the refi, and what happens if the house cannot be refied at that time for some reason? What is plan B? And look at all of that up front. If you're going to keep the house, or one of your clients is going to keep the house, be sure to get a quality home inspection. I always recommend with clients that they have a home inspector or a contractor, someone come through and take a look at things. Even though you've lived in the home, you may not be aware that there's mold growing somewhere, or that the roof is going to need to be replaced in the next year or so, or your air conditioner is about to die. You know, those big ticket items can really add up for folks. Just like you would be buying a house in the general public, you're buying your home from your spouse. So this is another way that you can protect yourself or protect your clients. I call this the tales of title terror. You know, beware of the quit claim deed. I mentioned that. Never sign off on a quit claim deed unless the mortgage has been refinanced, because you have given up your leverage to get your spouse to do so. Look for unknown liens, making sure that there are no mechanics liens on the home, tax liens, other creditors that may have gotten judgments or something like that, and insurance impacts, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute, that may make it very difficult to get clear title. And so here, insurance matters. You know, paying premiums doesn't always ensure protection. Whenever there is a change in title, you need to notify your insurance company, even though you may be the spouse living in the home and paying the mortgage premiums. If you are not on title for some reason, maybe you're staying in the home until the child graduates high school and your spouse has taken the equity and has kept the home in their name. If there is a claim on it, neither one of you may get paid because the insurance company was not notified. So it's always very important. We love live presentations, don't we? Sorry about that, guys. So you want to make sure that the insurance company is always notified of any changes in title to the home and the auto and anything else with an insurance matter, a nature of an insurance matter. In many cases, the best course of action may be to sell the house and split the proceeds. And as I mentioned, you know, it may be a matter of maybe someone can qualify to do a refi, but can they really afford to live their best life in that home, or is it going to strangle them over the long run? When you are able to approach a client or two clients, I many times work as a financial neutral as well, especially in the amicable divorce process. It is in the best interest of the clients, as Dan mentioned. They're really going to save a lot of money, and they're going to work together in this process through the whole thing, especially through the financials. And so when we sit down and we look at this and we say, hey, if you sell this property together now, you're both going to share in the cost of the commissions, of any fix-up cost, of closing costs. All of it is going to be split now. Whereas if one spouse takes the home and it's really, you know, going to be a stretch for them, if they determine in a year or two from now that they can't afford it and they have to sell, they're going to shoulder all of that by themselves. And that can be tens of thousands of dollars. So sometimes the best course of action is just simply to sell the home. It severs the mortgage liability as well. But I still recommend that clients get pre-qualified ahead of time, because we want to be able to give them the best opportunity to purchase a home on the other side, even if they're selling the one that they currently live in. So I always say, get informed early on, make wise decisions coming from an educated perspective, and for clients to be a proactive partner, not a passive participant. And listen, that applies to everything in life, your health, your wealth, and especially when you're getting divorced. Also knowing that procrastination is going to cause more drama, trauma, and dollars lost in your life. So, you know, this is not a time to do it alone. Be alone. Try to figure it out on your own. You want to have a team. You want to get your team in place early, and you want to work with your team to make those wise decisions and be educated about everything, every step along the way. And that's it. I'd love to connect with those of you that are here. Oh, excuse me, going backwards here. And you can find me on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. I do offer a complimentary consult, so feel free to reach out to the professionals here if I can help you with the client case, or to any of the consumers who are here. Making good decisions is really important for your well-being going forward. So thank you so much. And I am going to stop sharing here and introduce our next guest. So give me 1 second. We have up next David Hern. And David is a Georgia native residing in Swanee, married his college sweetheart, Kathleen, from Georgia Tech. They have 3 kids and 2 dogs, Otis the Great Dane and Apollo the German Shepherd. David is an outdoor sportsman whose hobbies include soccer, lacrosse, marathons, triathlons, fly fishing, sporting clays, and sailing. Wow. I'm impressed, David. I also know that you are a foster parent, and I think that that is just an incredible thing that you do for the community. David is a recovering tax accountant and investment banking analyst, where he primarily assisted financial institutions to raise capital, buy side and sell side M&A advice, and corporate valuations. As managing member of Sofer Advisors, David uses that strong accounting and finance knowledge base to serve as an independent and neutral business appraiser, serving clients with the objective of helping these parties make value-add decisions, solve complex problems, and break the deadlock. Often, Sofer Advisors is asked to serve as a consultant to attorneys facing valuation issues on their matters, as well as serving as an expert witness to inform a judge, jury, or arbitrator, mediator in a clear, educated manner. And with the heart of a teacher, he is dedicated to providing sound valuation advice to small business and middle market companies. So always a pleasure to be on the call with you, David, and I am happy to turn the floor over to you now.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa Decker. Thank you, Tracy Ann, for setting this up and having me come talk today. And thank you both for what you both do to the greater community as it pertains to divorce. I don't know who that guy was you were describing. Those kids and dogs don't permit me to do as much of those hobbies like I used to, and my waistline seems to be an utter reminder of that. But I do enjoy some of those hobbies when I get the time these days. And so, yeah, my goal here today is to talk about valuation as it pertains to valuing a company in a divorce setting. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And if somebody could be brave enough to yell at me if it doesn't work as I share this now. And thank you to Crystal White for being brave enough to show herself on video. Certainly hope if any of you are out there are not still eating, would love to see some faces. But alas, we will get started. Let me put the screen on. Okay, so yeah, I'm David Hern. My company's Sofer Advisors. So I've gotten pulled into this area to basically appraise businesses. Again, for really any reason, but today we're going to talk about when there's a divorce. Usually what happens is you've got one individual who either owns a business completely or owns a piece of a business. They could be a minority owner in a company. And the other individual, the other spouse, is sort of a non-business owner spouse. So generally, just generalizing, I like to think of sort of a male business owner and then typically the home economist, who oftentimes may be the female. And so generally what we're dealing with is sort of this information gap, where one individual, again, whether they're a partial owner or majority owner, knows a lot about this business, and the other individual who's involved in the divorce knows almost nothing, and is not involved in hardly any way. Now, of course, there's exceptions, but for this, I want to generalize because this tends to be more the mode. So I've started here with a picture of a business, and I thought about using like what I think of as a traditional picture of a business with smokestacks and big industrial thing, but that's really not anymore. They tend to be in settings like this, where they're very asset light organizations that cash flow and do a variety of 21st century service oriented work, it seems like these days. Again, there's exceptions, but for this presentation, I kind of want to generalize it this way to the mode on the frequency from which we see. And businesses are living, breathing things, right, that are constantly moving up and down, up and down. Picture turning on Bloomberg or CNBC and some line chart that is looking like the Rocky Mountains, right, up and down, up and down. And so our job is to come in the face of this divorce and all the way up into a potential trial is valuing that company at any given moment in time up into that trial date. But unfortunately, again, it's in a divorce context, right? Which has a lot of emotion, sometimes hostility. I think of this on akin to experiencing a death. Like it is a very difficult time for both individuals that are already having trouble agreeing on things like kids and visitation and homes and finances. And now you throw in a business interest. For some people, the business may be the most material dollar amount of their entire balance sheet that Dan talked about. And so there's this distrust that can come up when we start talking about real money, that's going to hit the page. And again, we have this problem where one of the individuals is sort of, either a homemaker or has been an employee their whole life, a W-2 person, and they've never been a sole proprietor like their spouse is, who owns a business. And so it's a different world from being an employee. And so these two parties are really relying on us to essentially bridge what's going to become a giant chasm between the two, where often you will hear the business owner say that our value is X, and then the non-business owner will say it is Y, and they're a mile apart. Generally, again, just generalizing, the business owner will say it's worth less, and the non-business owner will think it's worth a lot more than whatever's being initially led from a settlement perspective. So the biggest takeaway that I want you all to take from this whole talk is essentially the conclusion that no matter what type of advisor you are, when there's a divorce that's occurring with your clients, with a family member, and there's a business interest involved, you need to get a specialist who specializes in valuation and has the proper credentials involved early in the process, because ultimately, yes, there's a cost to doing that, but ultimately, overall, when you look at the total cost to get to a settlement, which is the goal, it will be less expensive overall than if you continue to kind of go at it alone or try and have other advisors, a CPA, financial advisor, kind of come at it when it's not their day-to-day on evaluating the business. So our goal is to get to an expeditious settlement as fast as we humanly can. But the challenge is, I have the untenable position of essentially telling someone whether their baby is ugly or not, and we have to discern which is which. And I bring this up, first of all, in my defense, the picture on the left, this was a mother who entered their child in a ugliest baby competition. So it's not me subjectively saying one baby's pretty or not. These were from their own mothers entering in these competitions. But that's really what we're being asked to do, is to discern the truth on who is more right. Is it more like the baby on the left, or is it more like the baby on the right? And that's a very difficult thing, because a business owner has a lot of endowment bias, with their company, where it really is their baby. But now they're in a situation where it hurts them to admit that there is value and that this thing is beautiful, but because there's a dollar impact to that now I have to take money out of my pocket and pay a spouse who I no longer potentially love anymore, right? So it's a very difficult position, and we use a lot of techniques to help in this. And ultimately, if they can't get to an agreement, right, where are we headed? Ultimately, it's some form of a trial, in whatever county or jurisdiction they're in all across the country. And so I like to tell the story a mediator once shared with me. Now, it was a business divorce, but I think the example applies, it's the same dynamics with a marital divorce. This is going to go in front of either a single human in the form of a judge, or 12 random strangers that are likely not really paying attention a whole lot, and don't have your best interest at heart. I've served on a jury trial and seen the dynamics. And unfortunately for the movie 12 Angry Men, that is not always how it plays out, in these types of settings. And the other sort of cons with this is look, you don't control the timing of this on who's going to be there and who's going to decide what happens. The fees start to spiral out of control in order to get all the way through a trial on the amount of advisors you're going to need to do that. You have no privacy anymore. Now this is in the public domain, right? And then oftentimes, right, the outcome, again, is it's not up to you, right? Someone else is going to decide your fate. And then the byproduct of that is people are almost less likely to stick with it because they didn't themselves come up with a decision. So again, the key takeaway from my presentation is to involve a evaluator as soon as humanly possible in a divorce where there's any kind of business equity interest involved, in order to avoid completely this avenue, is to get through settlement. That the benefits of settling and deciding things as a team together, you know, even if we're leaving some value on the table, are going to far outweigh anything you could possibly gain on probably a value pickup, at least if that's what your side is assuming, or a value decline if you're on the opposite side, because you're going to lose control at the end. So really, that's kind of what I've already gone and summarized here is sort of the benefits and costs to go in the mediation or settlement route. And what a lot of people don't realize too is, you know, we don't have to be engaged by just one side, right? The husband and the wife and through their attorneys can jointly agree on us. And again, if they do that, then it's more likely that they're going to then, you know, conform to the answer that we come up with, right? Whereas if one side hires someone like me and then the other side kind of uses their CPA or their financial advisor or some other advisor to kind of come up with another evaluation to combat it, you end up in the same place, right? In the beginning, you were at a chasm, and now you've just paid all these advisors and you're still at a chasm. So I think it's a really important takeaway is that we can be hired early, you know, whether it's amicable or slightly not, in order to be this neutral, to hopefully circumvent the need for multiple evaluators and the need for continuing to go down to litigate on the business equity matter and get the team to focus on other issues that need to be resolved besides the business. So our end goal is really just to reduce payment, you know, as far as the total lifetime value, right? So that's what this slide is trying to get at, right? We have the untenable position to sort of be like Switzerland and be neutral here. And again, it's highly advisable that they jointly interview someone like me in order to come up with this value, and then again, stick with the answer once that comes up. So I usually tell people, I bring people to tears. You know, sometimes those are happy tears, and sometimes those are crying tears. You know, we won't know which way until we really get involved with the company. So with that, I didn't want to get too into the technical. I'm going to be providing the entire slide deck for you all. That for some of you that are active in this space and want to know more about how we value companies, I've included multiple slides about how we do that and the risk factors that we include on things like discount rates, you know, approaches to value, you know, the things I look at that are really going to make a difference on if a company's worth a lot or not. There are many factors that go into that. And that's why we have to spend the hours to really get to know the business if we're going to paint a true non-fictional story. The less hours we're given, then the more chance that you're coming up with a number that may, you know, be off slightly, right? So I've got additional slides in the appendix that you'll be receiving, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for having me today.
Great job, David. We've got some wonderful esteemed colleagues here. I'm very honored to be presenting among them. And if you guys want to go ahead and put your information in the chat, if that's okay with Tracy Ann, anybody can reach out that wants to have more information on what we each presented about. Tracy, I'll turn this over to you now. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, for organizing today's presentation. It's our goal to present information to other professionals and the public to educate you all about the absolute best information out there. I'm so proud of our network of professionals. I think they're the absolute best in the industry. and really appreciate their time and their dedication also to amicable divorce principles. So I hope that everybody learned today that no matter how complicated your case might be, that way that the facts are complicated does not mean that you have to resolve the case through the court system. Through the amicable divorce process, we have had some very complicated cases that have come through, and they have been resolved amicably. If you're a practitioner who's on this call, you probably have seen the most complicated cases that ended up settling in mediation. And so with the amicable divorce process, we can actually streamline those complicated issues, use these high-level industry professionals to reduce cost and conflict for the parties, because a lot of times the fear is the unknown. So we can use their professionalism to really help the people involved get the facts that they need to work towards a conclusion, and that's just better for everybody. So if you're not a member of our organization and you're interested in that, you can email me at tracy@amicableddivorcenetwork.com. We're in the process of transitioning our website over to a more high-tech website. I have the most up-to-date information with me personally that I can email to you about membership. If you are a person who is looking at divorce, we always encourage you to get more information about amicable divorce. We are launching internationally, and so we can help you find professionals that are in your area if that's something that you are seeking. Always explore it as an option, and you can always get more information at www.amicableddivorcenetwork.com. Thank you to everybody for coming to our Lunch and Learn today. I really appreciate it, and thank you very much to our professionals for taking the time to educate us today. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.